2019 is when we formed the company.
Okay.
The idea was very simple, that we knew that the regulation is not going to be favorable or allowing us to fly drones immediately. So we took our sweet time in terms of developing the whole platform, because as I said, it was required, a lot of things were required to be developed. It's not just the drones, okay? Don't look at from one lens. It's the drone which is on the top level. It's the air infrastructure. It's the ground infrastructure. It's the autonomy that you're
What do you
building.
mean by air infrastructure?
So how do you access an airspace? It sounds very easy and quick to figure out that it is nothing in the airspace and drones can just go and fly. It doesn't work like that. There's so many challenges in the airspace. For example, there are manned aviation which are flying in at a different altitude. There can be helicopter movements at a low altitude. There can be a kite flying. There can be somebody flying a DJI, unauthorized drones in a particular zone. Right?
So do you have to take some bandwidth or something that this is the range you will fly, or
bandwidth is for communication, right?
Like bandwidth as in this is the level you will fly at.
That's ceiling altitude, which is already there from the regulatory perspective, that you cannot go beyond 120 meters AGL, right? That's a relative ground which has been created for us. But within that 120 meter AGL, there are plenty of flying objects which are there. How do you sort of make sure that your drones are flying safely?
Got it.
We didn't want the drones with a Flipkart logo or a Lenskart logo or something going and crashing into somebody, right? It should not happen. So I think there's levels of things which are required on the airspace safety side of it that you need to go and develop. So what we developed is called as Skye UTM. UTM is an unmanned traffic management system.
Okay.
It's the only gateway to the airspace. So it gives a lot of data points in terms of the terrain, in terms of how the weather is changing. We have a predictive weather analytics.
Okay.
So we get to know exactly, and I have better weather analytics than the IMD out here. So we get to know exactly the weather changes at a low altitude airspace, not the high altitude, low altitude airspace, at every 30 minutes sort of interval.
So what type of weather you cannot fly in?
Anything where the wind speed is beyond 40 km per hour. Anything where the rain is very high, the intensity of the rain is very high. So while we are sitting here, while we are standing outside, it doesn't feel. When the drone goes to 120 meters, the wind speed is very different there.
Okay.
Right. So it's very essential for us to not just take the data which is available from outside, because even the MEDAR data which is coming from the civil aviation side of it is for the high altitude flying. For the low altitude flying where the drones are flying, you need a very precise level of weather data to come in.
Amazing.
Because if there is one thing in the entire drone industry people underestimate, that's weather.
Yeah.
The weather has got the maximum advantage compared to the drone. If you're able to rightly predict and navigate the weather conditions, you're able to safely fly in the entire airspace.
And also the weather we feel is at our level, but as you said, 100 meters.
Yeah, I mean, you will not feel a gust wind when you're standing, but when the drone goes to 120 meters, there will be a gust wind which will sway the drone away from the designated path.
So what you're building, that ecosystem, is your main IP then, I'm understanding. Because if say tomorrow somebody wants to launch a similar company, you can rent that. Or are you open to an open infrastructure or a closed infrastructure?
I think what I've learned from legacy businesses which are there in the country, without naming any, but what I've learned from them is that you have to create a big amount of moat, which can be the one point to grow the company and make the company successful. So I think for us, that's the infrastructure layer that we're creating, both ground and air. That's one of the biggest moats that we have got in place that can take the company to a very different height altogether and can make sure that we have monopoly or duopoly for a very long time in that entire market.
Great. So in one of our podcasts, we interviewed K. Ganesh, who had started, who was running a venture studio called Growth Story. He had started Bluestone, Big Basket, and many companies. And he has a very interesting book. I'll send you that book. So when he talks about a concept of, there are two types of businesses. One is pipeline business and another is platform business.
Right.
So pipeline businesses, you control the entire thing. You create, like Lenskart is a typical pipeline business, which is like creating everything and controlling it. So if you do it well, you can be very successful. Platform business is like a Flipkart or a Amazon, where you create the ecosystem and sellers and buyers come and manage it.
Right.
So I'm sure you are right now on the pipeline side.
Not essentially. We are right now on the platform side.
Platform side, okay.
Right. But what we are doing is, when we started, the aim was always to be on the platform side.
Okay, so you will be the first pipeline on the platform, and then you can let it open.
Exactly. So what happened for us is that we realized that if we don't do it, for us to trigger and create a market out of it is going to be very difficult. So if you ask me that, hey, do you want to go with the same model in the US or UAE or any other country? The answer is no. We would want to go with the platform model there.
Okay, so you build the base infra, you take it, because then the capex is low then.
I mean, we build the base infra for the air, for the ground, for the entire ecosystem, what is required to be built. And we start licensing to local players out there and let them drive and do things as they wish to do.
Operations, they will take care.
Completely.
So how many drones you have right now?
33.
And what type of a drone is required for such a thing? Like, if you could tell us.
I mean, we use a small category of a drone, where the maximum takeoff weight is not beyond 25 kilos. Within that 25 kilos, we lift a package of 10 kilos.
And how do you get these things made? Like, generally, how much does it cost? Or like, what's
our average cost is about 6 lakh rupees.
Okay.
That's our average cost. And typically how we work is, again, as I said, that we don't want to control a lot of things, but we want to control a certain amount of things, which creates a value IP for us. So how we do is that I always realized from day one in 2019 that drones are going to be off-the-shelf commodity.
Yes.
Right. The specialization and the value IP can only be created on certain subsystems which are very specific to the application.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like in AI, that analogy is there, na? People who made refrigerators versus Coca-Cola.
Correct. Right. So I think when you change that refrigerator to become a sort of a vending machine or sort of a freezer to hold the Coca-Cola, I think that's the layer where you create a value IP for yourself.
And see, in that analogy, what had happened is people who use refrigeration were the ones who flourished. The refrigeration companies, White Westinghouse, Kelvinator, Electrolux, nobody remembers them.
Correct.
So, but everything refrigerated, ice
There's
creams,
still a
cold
white goods
drinks,
company.
and pata nahi kya has come out.
Correct. There's still a white goods company.
Yeah.
I think the core fundamental business for them was selling refrigerators.
Yeah. So application is where we create the.
So what we do essentially is that we get 60% of the drone from these OEs that we work with, and then the 40% value addition, which more revolves around connectivity, navigation, autonomy, safety, and reliability, is all done in-house. Right. So we build those subsystems, we integrate those subsystems, and we then take it forward.
Tell me, how does it work? Like a delivery work, the steps. Somebody has to deliver from one place to the customer's location.
We receive all the shipments at our stations, at our hubs. Every hub has got a certain geography that this caters to this area and this zip codes. The drone takes off from there. It goes to the nearest pod, which is available for that pin code and that area of where you're ordering from. It delivers there. Then there is a walker. We call them a Skye walker. His job is to basically take out the package from there and go to the doorstep and deliver you the package. Yeah, so I mean, logistical ecosystem in India in the past 10 years have not encountered a major shift, which has been there. If you look at today, we as a country are still at a 15-16% on the logistics cost of the total product cost, which is essentially going on, which is very high compared to our global peers, which are on single digit right now. So there is ample of scope of the transformation to happen in the last mile logistics. Typically, it's a $5 billion market today, just the last mile logistics.
And why is it so high? Is it because our average order value is low, or we are very inefficient in our logistics?
We are very inefficient in our logistics. It's nothing to do with the AOV. I think the average order value compares to a lot of other countries where it is cheaper, where it's better. But I think it's more to do with how the current last mile logistics industries work, right? It's very random, it's very dynamic, and it keeps on switching and has got tons and numerous amount of things that people offer. Now, these products are made for reducing your losses and things like that. But what it has done is it has reduced the efficiency of the entire system to a larger extent. So it has become expensive, right? Players and D2C brands who need not wanted to rush into a 10 minutes delivery or 30 minutes delivery are now pushed to rush because that's about the brand existence now.
Because the customer is now drugged into it.
Yeah, if you don't deliver in that time frame, you're out of market, right? People will forget about you. People will think your services are bad, etc., etc. You can still build a niche over there, but again, I think they have been pushed into that. Now they are working on low volume, and apparent. I mean, since they work on low volume, the entire logistical nightmare for them starts happening where the cost is on a very, very high side because you have to pick up from their warehouses, you have to go and deliver somewhere else. The distances are long, the volumes are not that great, and since the volumes are not that great, they're not able to get a better cost to work out things with.
What are the top logistic providers in India right now?
Delivery, Blue Dart, DDC, Shadowfax. They're the 3-4.
Interesting in your answer, the Indian postal system, the post office, does not come in.
Yeah, that's
and
because
what is your view in it?
I think India Post is the largest in terms of the pin codes that India Post covers. And I think the sort of transformation that we are aware about right now, which is happening in India Post, is massive. So the good part is that we have been closely knit and working with them in terms of understanding how they are transforming and what kind of transformation happens. I can't share a lot about it here, but I think from the lens that we see is that they have been phenomenal in the approach that they have now got in the place to realize on how they can reduce their cost. The cost is very high compared to private sector companies which are there. Because you have a postman, you are paying him a very good cost. You have a pension, you have so many things like government services, government mail things which are essentially moving. So I think good amount of transformation which is coming out there. You'll see that in next 6 months, which is coming out here. And the potential for India Post to become or come in the top 3 is very high.